I really want to speak passionately in French and finally understand what these musicians mean in their songs. But every time I try to get to that point, it just seems harder and harder. I either get bored and tired of these flashcards, or I just can't seem to find the time. And honestly, it's quite exhausting and demotivating. So how do people like Sandra Oh, Johnny Depp, or Bradley Cooper do it? I think I have an answer, so let's break it down in this video.
Le traumatisme crânien. Dommage. Merci.
Ce que j'ai fait quand je suis libre, j'essaie d'être ici en France.
France me donnait beaucoup de choses et ça continue.
You probably think they spent hundreds of thousands of dollars for the best teachers out there. But coming closer, I have a secret for you. There is a way that is supported by linguists and polyglots that both me and you are missing out on, but people like Sandra Oh and Bradley Cooper are already using it. Sandra Oh learned French while studying in Montreal. She integrated herself into the French-speaking environment through theater studies. She focused on practical communication rather than the formal studies, which allowed her to immerse herself fully into the culture, and it paid off pretty well. It's not surprising to see such results, as she was using the methods linguists use to learn languages, methods that include immersion and meaningful interactions. Actually, some of these methods are even based on Stephen Krashen's second language acquisition theory. But first of all, who even is he? Stephen Krashen is an American linguist who developed theories on second language acquisition in the late 70s and early 80s. These ideas are collectively called as monitor model or input hypotheses. They actually consist of several theories. Let's see if you agree with them. First up, natural order. This one states that when you learn a language, you firstly pick up the easier grammar rather than the harder one. Besides, if you're learning through a course or any other curriculum structure. For example, let's say you're learning English. You will most likely firstly pick up verbs like to be, so you are, he is, she is, rather than a more complex irregular verb or a more complex verb tense. Therefore, you learn grammar through a natural order rather than following a curriculum. Secondly, input hypothesis. This one basically tells us that you learn the language best when you hear or read things that are a bit harder than what you already know, but they still make sense to you. I actually did a more detailed video about this hypothesis earlier on, so you can find the link to it down below in the description or just check it out here. Thirdly, affective filter hypothesis. This one highlights that your feelings and how confident you feel about learning a language can make a big difference to how you learn. Anxiety and discomfort can ruin your language journey. Therefore, you should look out for your mental health and well-being for better results. Fourthly, monitor model. It tells us that once you learn some rules of a language, you can use them to check or fix your own mistakes when you speak or write. So you kind of become your own supervisor or a teacher. And lastly, natural communication. Here, Krashen explores how talking and listening to people in a natural way, or specifically natives, helps you learn a language rather than studying grammar rules. In general, these theories differ quite a bit from the traditional learning, as they focus on practical input and the natural order of learning to make the journey more enjoyable and less tedious. They also provide practical and real-life context for the language use, giving you the opportunity to fit it in your busy daily schedules, as these methods of learning don't even feel like studying. Just in a bit, I'm gonna show you how you can start implementing this approach, so keep watching. Coming back to our celebrities, most of successful language stories actually come from learning the natural order and practicing natural communications. So these ideas do work, and they don't even require a special team of teachers. So how can you start implementing them into your daily life today? Here are some tips, and the last one is honestly a game changer for me. First, activate your active listening skills. Dive into your favorite shows and movies in the language that you are learning. Turn on the subtitles if you have to, and slowly wean them off as you get more comfortable. Shows and movies provide great real-life language use, allowing you to pick up some slangs and expressions that you won't find in a textbook.
What is fetch? Oh, it's like slang from England.
But it is a bit time consuming. Next, you can join speaking groups, either online or in person. Many cities have these language meetups where people come and practice speaking, for example in English. This is a great way of immersing yourself into a language-rich environment. You can also try changing the language on your phone or social media. It might seem small, but it immerses you into the language daily and helps you to learn vocabulary and common phrases on the go. Speaking of doing things on the go, you can listen to podcasts in the language you're learning about the topic of your interests. For example, I like to listen to some stories or business interviews in French. Not only do you enjoy the content, but you also get used to the rhythm and the sounds of the language, which is an important role when it comes to understanding and speaking the language fluently. But you don't have to stop here. There is a final way in which you can fully immerse yourself into Johnny Depp, Sandra Oh's, and Bradley Cooper's way by combining everything that is immersive, engaging, less time-consuming, and includes natural communication. So next time you're having lunch or you have some free time on your hands, you can open a TED Talk YouTube video or a how to make pizza from scratch tutorial in Italian, or any other YouTube video that you will find interesting in the language that you are learning through Lang Magic. Not only will you be entertained, but you will also be pushed into your learning journey. And if you're not sure what to watch, don't worry. Lang Magic has curated playlists for English, Spanish, German, and French. You can find the links for them down below in the description. So we covered the basics, and now you and I both know how we can improve our language journey. But remember that language learning is not a sprint, it's a marathon. And I'll see you next week. Au revoir.